Hey everyone, Bill Lethman here with Money Evolution. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about some of the new changes coming to 401k plans for 2023. So, here over the past couple of weeks or so, I've been really taking a deep dive into the Secure Act 2.0. That's that new legislation that was passed in December of 2022 and is beginning to start taking effect into 2023 and some changes into 2024 and 2025. So, in this video, I'm going to focus more on just what those changes are relative to 401k plans. In some other videos that I'm going to be coming out with, I'm going to be talking about some of the Secure Act 2.0 legislation and how that may impact other aspects of your retirement plans. So, real quick though, before I get into the content of today's video, if you're watching this and you'd like to learn a little bit more about what we do at Money Evolution, we have some links down in the description below. You can learn about our financial planning that we do called Wealth Vision, and also our retirement planning course called the Retirement Time Machine. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about here are the changes that came in for the contribution rates. Now, this isn't something that was necessarily part of the Secure Act 2.0, but more or less just a regular increase that we tend to see from time to time for how much money we can put into our 401k plans. So for the regular contributions, there was really no change from 2022 to 2023. That number remains at $22,500 for your contributions to your 401k plan. There was, however, a slight increase to the catch-up contributions. For those of you that are 50 years old or older, that's gone up by $1,000 from $6,500 last year to now $7,500 this year. So a little bit of an increase there. So if you're 50 years old or older, you can now put in up to $30,000 into your 401k plan. And remember, like we've talked about in other videos, that can go into either traditional or Roth, combination of that, but that's a combined total for that $30,000 contribution if you're over 50, or $22,500 if you're under 50. Also, too, because of that increase in the catch-up contribution, the maximum amount that you can put into those employer-sponsored plans has gone up a little bit as well. So if you're under 50 years old, that number is $66,000. And so that's, remember, your contributions plus your employer matching contributions. And then if you're allowed inside your plan, you can have an after-tax bucket as well. And the combination of all three of those categories, if you're under 50, can be up to $66,000. And with that catch-up provision increase, if you're 50 years old or older, that's going to be up to $73,500 that you can put into the plan. So again, if you want to learn more about that, or what am I talking about there with those after-tax contributions, we've got some other videos where I get into that, talking about the mega backdoor Roth strategies and things of that nature. One other change here that did come in as a result of the Secure Act 2.0 are some changes that are coming in 2025 to the catch-up provisions. And so beginning in 2025, if you're an individual that's 60 years old, 61, 62, or 63 years old, they're now going to allow you to do an extra catch-up provision over and above whatever those catch-up provisions happen to be at that point in time. And it's going to be the greater of either $10,000 or 50% bump up over and above what those catch-up provisions are. So that's something that they're trying to encourage people, obviously, to save more money. And as we get a little bit closer to retirement in those years, for those 3 years, I don't know why they decided to stop it at 63 and not just say if you're 60 years old or older, but that's what the legislation says. So 60, 61, 62, or 63. So for those years, you can make an extra catch-up contribution, and some of you may want to take advantage of it. But again, that comes in at 2025. Now, one other change that came in here as a result of the Secure Act 2.0 were changes to your employer matching contributions. So under the former rules, those matching contributions, even if you were, let's say, contributing to a Roth 401k, those matching contributions had to go into the traditional bucket or the tax-deferred bucket. So now the IRS in this new rule is going to allow those matching contributions to also go into your Roth account. Now, it's going to be interesting to see how long it's going to take for maybe some employers to get their record keeping and the administrative aspects of that all set up. But at least it's now an option. And at some point, we could see this coming out to your 401k plan at some point in the future. Now, if you do elect to have those matching contributions going into the Roth, understand, obviously, that's going to incur some additional taxable income. So if you're getting, let's say, $10,000 in matching contributions and you're putting that into the Roth as opposed to tax deferred, you're now going to have to pay taxes on that additional money. And just be aware that that's how that's going to work. And you're going to see that on your payroll tax deductions. Okay, now a couple more changes here as it relates to 401k plans that specifically came in as a result of the Secure Act 2.0. One of those is going to be related to your required minimum distributions, specifically those required minimum distributions on Roth 401k plans. So, as many of you may know, if you have a Roth IRA, you're not required to take required minimum distributions. However, if you have a Roth 401k plan prior to this new rule change, you did have to take required minimum distributions on a Roth 401k. Now, this was something that was fairly easily avoided. So if you got to that age where RMDs were required, you could simply roll your Roth 401k to a Roth IRA and then avoid having to take those RMDs. But now, under the Secure Act 2.0, you're no longer required to take those mandatory distributions. So that's a good thing. The second thing they did here, too, is they also set up for brand new plans, 401ks or 403b plans, a requirement for automatic enrollment of their employees for at least a 3% contribution rate. Now, that's something that's not going to kick in until 2025. But again, it's all part of this initiative to get people to save more money. And then finally, there's something I think is really interesting and I think is going to maybe apply to a lot of individuals, maybe not you necessarily, but if you're watching this, you may know somebody that this could be good for. And that's related to student loan debt and getting a 401k matching contribution. So as many people are maybe starting off in their careers and they've accumulated some of this student loan debt, it may be that it's very difficult or maybe almost impossible for them to continue making those payments on the student loan and still fund their 401k. And so then it becomes kind of a battle between do I pay off that student loan or do I pay less on that? But I'm also maybe giving up some matching contribution. So now the way the Secure Act 2.0 is worded, you can actually use those student loan payments to help qualify for a 401k matching contribution. So that money would go into your retirement account. And so let's say, for example, that you needed to put $6,000 into your 401k plan to get a $3,000 match. The way I understand it, as long as you're making $6,000 in student loan payments, you would be eligible to get that $3,000 matching contribution. So then you're able to kind of do both. You're getting some money into your retirement and you're also paying down those student loans, which I think is obviously very, very important. So there you have it. Those are some of the new rules coming in for 2023. Some of those obviously don't kick in until 24 or 25, but lots of changes here. I think for the most part, I think pretty positive changes there. And once again, if you're watching this video and if you like what we're doing here, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Check out the other videos on our channel. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about what we do at Money Evolution, we've got some links down in the description below. Our comprehensive financial plan called Wealth Vision. Also, our retirement planning course called the Retirement Time Machine. We got links to both of those below. And with that, I look forward to seeing you back in one of our next videos. Thanks.